Start by talking about where you're born, anything that's special that may have surrounded your birth. I guess is the first place we could start. Okay.
Are we ready?
Yep.
You want to know about my birth? Well, the only thing, I don't remember any of this, you know.
Well, just where were you born? When were you born?
I was born July the 18th, 1936. I guess it was a farmhouse I was born. I wasn't in a hospital, it was just a farmhouse. My grandmother on my mother's side and my father delivered me. And our address was Johnstown, Nebraska at the time.
Johnstown?
Johnstown.
Johnstown?
Johnston. And my mother said I was the fastest born of all of her kids so far. She had one hard pain. She stood up and her mother, my grandmother, held her, and my father caught me as I came out. She was standing up. That's what I remember them telling me.
Your father caught you?
My father caught me because I was born when my mother was standing up. She got up somehow, I don't know. This is just what I remember him telling me. And she said she had one very hard pain. And if he hadn't caught me, I'd have fallen on my head.
What, how many brothers and sisters, and where were you in the sequence did you have?
There was 3 older sisters, and
The names are?
Trua, Amelia, and Pansy.
Is that the order they were?
That was the order they were born. And then I have a brother that was still born after Pansy. And then came R.C., whose name is Ralph. Then there was me. And I was named after my grandmother and my mother. Minnie was my grandmother's name, my father's mother. And Vera was my mother's middle name. In 10 years, I was a baby for 10 years. And then my parents had another baby, a boy, whose name is Robert. And that is all the children.
What are your first memories?
That's hard, I don't know. I remember my nagging my mother to make me candy, like I told you last night. After all because everybody else was school and I was home with her alone. And I remember when I first started school how all the older boys teased me about my name, Minnie.
In kindergarten?
First grade, I never went to kindergarten. We didn't have kindergarten.
Were you still in Johnstown?
No. My parents moved from, I don't really remember, all I remember is hearing him tell about moving from Nebraska to South Dakota, which was right across, not very far, and they bought a farm in South Dakota, which was right on the edge of Nebraska line. And the only thing I can remember about that is my older brother and I and some other neighborhood kids used to think it was fun to go down there, and we'd put one foot, there was a marker, and we'd put 1 foot in North Dakota, or South Dakota, 1 foot in Nebraska. We thought that was neat because we half of us was in Nebraska and half of us was in South Dakota.
How long were you on that farm before you?
That's where I grew up, and I think my mother or father said that we moved there when
So you grew up
I was
in
about 4. Yeah, so I grew up in
South
South Dakota, really. And we went to I went to a 1-room schoolhouse. It was really 2 rooms. It was the biggest schoolhouse around there, really. They had high school there. They had, at that time, freshman, sophomore, and junior. And my 2 older sisters went through junior year there. And when I started the 1st grade, they were in high school, and they went there too. But then they closed it down and didn't have high school. I don't know when. I really don't remember. I think shortly after that. Because my other sister, I think, went to high school in town. We had to go to Valentine, Nebraska, or Winter, South Dakota to go to high school. And I don't know, about school I don't remember a lot. I remember I had one teacher named Mrs. Holfelt for several years right after I started school. And I remember Nellie Mae Mahaffey, I don't know, something like that, who taught and had no control. The kids ran wild. I remember my older brother and my cousin, they used to run around the room and throw things at each other, and she had no control over them whatsoever. Yeah, what was I talking
You were
about?
talking about school and your brother's running all over a teacher
Oh, everybody did.
because she couldn't control the
She had
class.
no control. I don't remember what happened. Really don't remember what happened to her. I don't think she finished. I think they had to get another teacher to come in and finish that year out. And I remember one other teacher that we had,
What was the name of the school?
Beaver Creek.
Just Beaver Creek School,
Mm-hmm.
South Dakota.
It was in South Dakota. Our address was Millboro. Millboro.
South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
For the farm, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And
That was the
Millboro.
closest post office box or something.
Right. And
So how long were you there?
through the 8th grade. I graduated from the 8th grade there.
And then they closed the school?
No, the school is there, still there.
So where did you go to after 8th grade?
8th grade, I went to Winter, South Dakota, and went my freshman and sophomore year in Winter, South Dakota. I stayed with my first year. I worked for my room and board, and I stayed with this family that had 4 little, I think they were all boys. And I helped take care of them and helped with the housework and the ironing and dishes and
So you weren't at home during those years of school?
no, only on some weekends and in the summer. And that's how I got my room and board.
Was
And
that-
then I went to school during the day. But I had this really neat room. I'd never had such a nice room. And and I never had anything like bathrooms.
Mhm.
Because I was raised where we had outside bathrooms, outside toilets. No, we took baths on Saturday nights.
Outside?
No. We had a big tub where we heated the water and took a bath and washed our hair on Saturday nights. We had a stove, wood stove, until, I don't know, we did get a gas stove sometime during my life, but I think that was when I was almost through with grade school. And when I was in high school, my first or second year of high school, we got electricity. We grew up with little lamps. That's how we,
Oil lamps?
little oil lamps, in the house. And we did have they came out with Coleman lanterns, and I know we did use them some when we wanted a lot of light, but they were more expensive to run and things. And we heated the house, I think, with oil. And the stove, wood stove that my mother cooked on. And it had a reservoir that in it at the end where you fill with water, and that's how you got your hot water if you wanted to wash your hands or something. We had no sink.
Running water, no.
I was trying to think. I think Daddy did put running water in the house. It was just cold, you know. But I can't remember when he did it, but it must have been, I would say, during my 6th grade or older, or maybe, somewhere around there. I just remember him putting water into the house, and they went out and bought this, like a cupboard that had a sink in it, And so it had a double sink, and it was metal. I remember that, but all we had was cold water. And
You remember anything special about school? High school, or when you were in high school, like when you were working for your room and board?
anything special?
You were an athlete? Or?
No, I never did much. I was always very shy and withdrawn, and I didn't do much. I don't think I did anything the first 2 years I went to school. Now when I went to Valentine, well, my second year I stayed with another family that only had 2 children. And I did basically the same thing, except I didn't have as many kids to take care of. And I don't really remember. I didn't really do anything. Go out for any curricular activities or anything like that.
So when did you graduate?
54. But I moved to Valentine, Nebraska. I didn't want to work for my room and board anymore, so I talked my father into letting me. I wanted to go to Valentine. I don't know why. I don't remember why, but I wanted to go to Valentine.
Was someone there you knew?
I don't think I can't remember knowing anybody. My father was during my sophomore year, I do remember this. My father was very ill. I remember him being ill, all the time with his stomach. And it was
Ulcers?
right before Christmas, my sophomore year, they had to take him to Omaha, Nebraska, and he had to have 4/5 of his stomach removed with ulcers. And I remember we had a neighbor who was quite well-to-do. He had this little private airplane, and he came to Winter, South Dakota, and got me and another girl that lived, she lived like probably 15 miles from where I did, but we knew each other. He came and got us and took us home in that little airplane because of the snow and the weather. And my father at that time was still in the hospital, and my mother too. And my older brother was there at the farm. Him and I were the only ones there at that particular time for a few days. And then, I don't remember they brought Daddy home, Mom did. And I went back to school after vacation. and we had really bad snowstorm. And my father raised cattle. That's mainly how he made his living. Not much farming, it was mainly cattle with some little farming. And I don't know, I can't remember. I think if I remember correctly, he lost over 100 head of cattle in a snowstorm. It snowed and blizzard, and my brother tried to go out and help get him in, and he couldn't. And my dad, who was still recuperating from illness, the surgery, went out and tried to help. And I don't know, everybody always says that's why he never got well, never really completely healed, because he went out and did that. But I don't know that for certain. But anyway,
That was during your senior year?
that was my sophomore year, when I was going to Winter, South Dakota. And
So
that would have been in 50,
52.
must have been, yes.
52.
Or the storm must have happened in 52 because I was back at school. And then, like I said,
What about back up a little bit? What about the war? You remember that?
not really. I vaguely remember a few things. I remember planes going over and people talking. I remember my father listening to the news and telling everybody to be quiet. He wanted to hear the news. But see, I don't think I really don't remember. I just remember bits and pieces of people talking about it. I didn't understand exactly.
Or she wasn't old enough to go?
No, he's only 2 years older than I am.
Oh, that's right.
I remember a cousin who went in the service, and I remember seeing pictures of him with my older sisters. He was about the age of them, I think. And I remember people talking about it, and I remember people talking when I was a little girl about the world coming to an end, and I remember talking to this little girl that I went to school with, but I just wanted to grow up and get married before the world came to an end. And I didn't quite understand all this. And
Okay.
I just don't remember that much about it, because I don't think I was at, like we were talking about Pearl Harbor, when they had the 50th. See, I was only the 50th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. I would only been 5 when that happened.
Not really old enough to remember.
Not too much anyway, just little. I remember, like I said, I remember my father listening to the news and finding out what was happening, but I guess they didn't involve us in the conversation, or me in particular, so I don't really remember.
So you graduated in 54, but you were in Valentine then. You were the only one in Valentine?
No, when I was a junior, like I said before, I wanted to work instead of in a store part-time and go to school instead of working for my room and board. So my father knew this guy that owned this drugstore in Valentine, Mr. Flynn, and he took me and went in there, and he gave me a job working part-time. It was one of these drugstores that had a soda fountain, So I got to work behind the soda fountain, serving milkshakes and sodas and ice cream, and I also waited on people that wanted other things too. But at first, I think I did mostly that. Mm-hmm. And I worked there 1 year. Then I wanted to change and go to work over at the dime store, I think because a friend did. And we had the dime store called, I can't remember. I want to say Ben Franklin's, but I'm not sure when it was or not. Anyway, so I got a job over there, and I worked my senior year there.
So what did you do after you graduated? High school.
I went to Denver, Colorado to business college. Well, see, during this time, my parents sold, no, they didn't sell the farm. Well, during my junior year, I started staying with Amelia, my sister, because she lived in Valentine. And then my folks, they moved into town. I don't remember whether they rented the place or what, but my father used to go out on the weekends. They did. So I don't know exactly, I don't really remember exactly what was going on. But my mother stayed in town most of the time with me. That year they didn't buy it, I don't think at the time. I think they rented this apartment. And so my mother was there. And what was I saying?
So when you were in your junior year, your folks moved to Valentine? They followed?
Anyway, my mother did. I don't think they sold the farm. I think they just sort of rented. And maybe somebody was living there, and I just don't remember for sure. I'd have to ask one of my other sisters. Maybe they would remember, but I don't remember for sure. But anyway, after I graduated from high school, they were going back to the farm, both of them. So I know they didn't sell it. And my father told me I wanted to go to business college in Denver, but I didn't want to go until September. I wanted to work and make some money so I could buy some clothes.
Go ahead. Talking to your father about going to business college?
Right, and he was going to pay for my way going to business college. But he said I had to come back on the farm and work this summer. I couldn't work in town.
In Denver?
No, in Valentine.
Okay.
So it started, I could either start in June or September. And I wanted, like I said, I wanted to work for the 3 months and earn some money to buy some clothes. But he said no. If I didn't go in June, I had to come to the farm and work that summer. And I said, okay, then I'll go in June, because I didn't like the farm. I did not like farm life. So I went to business college in Denver, Colorado.
How old were you?
How old? I was 17, almost 18. And I stayed in this neat house with these people. They were really nice people. I worked for my room and board again. They had 4 kids. And I had this, I really liked the room because I had a room down in the basement. I was in the basement, but it was a nice big room. I had my own private bath. I never had anything like that. So it was nice. But I basically took care of their kids when they were gone. I cleaned their house and did the dishes. And I got one night, I got paid there. I got paid I think it was $5 or $6 a week, plus room and board. And I think I got Sundays and Thursday nights off. And a lot of the girls did that went to school. And most everybody that had girls come and live with them like that, they gave them Thursday nights off, because then the girls could get together and do something. And let's see, that's where I met your father, was in Denver.
Was he stationed in Colorado Springs, or?
No. The Air Force Base in Denver, and the name of it has left me right now. I don't know, I can't remember. But it was in there. And
You met him in first year of college?
well, it was only a 1-year program. But I didn't graduate. I attended college for 1 year, business college. And I did, and I met your father, and
How did you meet him?
I met him on a bus. But I was introduced to him. One of the girls from college knew him. And he was on this bus going into town, and she introduced me.
How did she know?
She went to a dance out on the base.
And you met him there, and he
Mhm.
happened to be on the bus, or
Right.
said, "Oh, by the way, I'd like you to meet so and so."
Something like that.
Is that right?
And then I was standing waiting for the bus one morning, and he had this car, and he drove by. Boy, this could have been serious. He asked me if I wanted to ride into town, and I said yes.
What do you mean it could have been serious?
Well, I think about it. You know, if you did that now. I didn't really know him that well.
Back then you didn't worry about it, I guess.
I guess not that much. And then he asked me if I wanted to go out to lunch that day, and I said yes. So he came down and took me out to lunch when it was lunchtime, and it just progressed from there.
Progress for how long?
Well,
How long did you court before he asked you to?
not very long, really. Maybe 6 months.
How old was Dad when he met you?
Well, he was only a year older than I was. A year and 2 months older than I was.
So you were 18 and he
So
was
I was-
19
Mhm.
when you met.
Right. And when we got married, I was 19 and he was 20. Because he had to call back to and get permission over the phone to get married from his folks.
Because he wasn't 21?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, and then I really quit college, and I worked for Gates Rubber Company in Denver, Colorado for about 3 months, and we were going to get married in September. And then he got orders to go to Germany. So we decided to get married before he went to Germany. And so we went home and got married. And that's when
Home? Whose home?
my home, Valentine, Nebraska. Because my folks were living in Valentine then.
Okay.
No, excuse me, they were not. They were still living on the farm. Because they hadn't sold it yet. But they, you know, that's
Yeah.
where everybody was.
Okay.
My sisters were around there, and but anyway, we were married at the Methodist Church in Valentine, Nebraska, on August 15th, 1955. And
What did your parents think about that when they first met?
well, I don't remember any really negative reactions. My father said,
Positive reactions?
my father said about me, well, there's goes $1,000 down the drain. Talking about my college, because I didn't finish. And he spent $1,000 for my college education then. And but I don't, where was I at?
Talking about your family's reaction to Dad.
Well, I don't remember. I think everybody liked him. I didn't, you know, nobody ever said anything about not liking him.
Did any?
They accepted it. And
Did his parents, Grandma and Grandpa Lester, come out to Valentine for the
no,
wedding?
he was surrounded by all my family. That's why I said he had to call his mother and get permission to get married verbally on the phone, because we couldn't get a license in Valentine, Nebraska, because he wasn't of age. And so there from then we spent our wedding night in Valentine, Nebraska, and then we drove to Oregon. And I lived.
In what?
He had this little car, Chevy car, I don't remember, it was kind of like a coupe, maybe a 49, something like that. Anyway, that's what we drove to Oregon in. And his folks lived in Corvallis. And Grandma Kitty lived with him at the time, I believe. No, maybe she didn't. I can't remember for sure. His mother was sick at that time. I remember she was in the hospital. She had a nervous breakdown. Right after. It was after he went overseas to Germany.
Grandma Lester.
Grandma Lester. And she was in the, yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah, she was in the state hospital. They gave her electric shock treatments. And I remember going to visit her. And
Why?
did she have I really don't know. I think she was always had I don't really know. But well, she recuperated. You know, she got pretty well after that. But she, like I said, she had shock treatments, and I remember it sort of left her memory. She couldn't remember some things. And evidently they try to, I don't know much about shock treatments, but evidently they block out some of the memories that caused the problem. I don't know for sure. But anyway, in that time I saved up enough money to fly to Germany. I didn't fly to Germany. I flew from Germany to New York, and then I went on a ship.
You flew from Oregon to New York.
Yeah, where did I say?
From Germany to New
No,
York.
I flew from Portland, Oregon to New York. And when I was getting my shots and all the things that you needed to get to go to overseas, I met this girl in Corvallis who we went together to New York. And we were both on the same ship, but I went on cabin rates, or the cheapest rates I think they were called. And she went the next class up because she couldn't get anything else. So we weren't together on the ship. And that was quite an experience.
How long did it take you to go across?
Seems like it was 7 days, but I can't remember for sure. I went on the SS America, I believe, which is a sister ship at the time, probably still is, to the I don't know, SS United States or something. I can't remember. There was a couple big ships at that time. My memory isn't too good, Rick.
You're doing fine.
And anyway, it docked at Le Havre, France, and your father met me there, and we went by train to Paris, and we spent a few days in Paris. I don't remember, we didn't see a lot because we didn't have much money. We saw a few things, and then we went back to where he was at base, and he had been at this little apartment which was in a little town called Spangdahlem, Germany, and it was about, maybe 5 miles from the base. And
What was his job at the time?
he worked at the service club. I don't know officially what he was. What it was called now. But he did work at the service club helping with programs and things that they did to entertain the troops. I'm trying to think of what it was called, but I can't remember now.
So what year did you go to Germany?
Well, it was December of 1955.
So you weren't in Corvallis by yourself very long?
No, from August. Four months. Something like that. And
How long were you in Germany?
13 months.
This the only time you were in Germany?
Yes.
What happened in Germany? Anything?
Well, we lived in this, like I said, this little one-room apartment, which had a bed and a little heater in one corner and a wardrobe that you hung your clothes and a dresser that you put your clothes in. And did I see there was a little heating stove in the corner? And we bought a little 2-burner hot plate, and your dad built these shelves that we had on one side that we put what few pots and pans and dishes we had. And we cooked and ate and slept and everything in that one room. And there was it was a new house, it was a nice room. And it was a widow woman that owned it. And she lost her husband right after he built this house for him. And so she rented out, I think she had 2 apartments besides hers, a little one, and there was there was 3. There was 2 one-room ones and 1 2-room one. And there was a share bath.
How much did it cost you?
About $25 a month, I believe. That was not a lot. We had to heat the water. The water heater in the bathroom had a heater underneath it. When you wanted to take a bath, you had to build a fire underneath the heater.
Build a fire with wood?
No, coal. And that's how you wanted to wash your clothes down in the basement too. They had a great big tub, and you stomped your clothes like with a plunger. And anyway, Ralph was born in there in October 24th of 1956. And then in January, we came back to the United States on board a ship. It was a military ship.
The military provided transportation back here?
Yes.
How come they didn't provide it over?
Because because of rank. He was only enlisted. And he didn't have enough rank. And we went he re-enlisted in New York City, and we bought a car and we traveled from New York City to Valentine, and then from Valentine to Corvallis, and we were stationed in Moses Lake, Washington, and we went there to Moses Lake, Washington, and that's where Paula was born, and you were born, and Patty was born in Moses Lake, Washington.
Okay, Moses Lake, Washington. Paula was born
November 11th, 1957. And she lived until January the 4th, 1958. So I think that was approximately 7 weeks. And she had congenital. She was born with a bad heart. She had a hole in her heart. Congenital heart disease. And else do you want to know?
Who is next?
Next was Richard, Owen Lester, who was born March the 20th, 1959. Did I get that right?
Pretty
In
good.
Moses Lake, Washington. And then came Patty, May the 27th, 1960, in Moses Lake, Washington.
How long were you in Moses Lake?
We were in Moses Lake until probably, Patty was born in 60, probably 62. I'm not sure. Your father got sick and was in the hospital in Texas.
Where did he get sick? Was he with you all the time in Moses Lake, or was he shipped out?
No, he was there all the time except for a couple times. He had back surgery twice. That's why before I met him, he was an electrician and he fell off of a pole and therefore he had back problems and he had spinal fusion. In fact, I think he had it twice, if I remember right.
Where was he?
In Moses Lake, Washington. Pardon?
Where did he fall off a pole?
I don't know. It was before I met him. And, but then they found out he was sick and they found out in Moses Lake and they sent him to I think it was Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, whichever one's there.
What was wrong?
San Antonio. They said he had rheumatic fever when he was in Korea and it caused the valves to block,
When was he in Korea? Was it when you were married to him?
No, it was before I met him. Must have been, I suppose, in 1953 and 4, I would say, somewhere around that. No, that was before. And,
So everybody went to Texas because he was in the hospital there?
well, I'm trying to think, he went there. Somehow he got a transfer there. I don't know how. But he did. And we were all sent down there. I remember traveling on an airplane with you. 3 little ones. And Patty couldn't have been over. See, I think you were only about 3 and Patty was only about 2 at the time. So we were probably in Moses Lake until 62. And anyway, he was well enough and he came and met us at the airport, I remember. And then he was in the hospital for a while there and then they released him and he went to work. I do not remember what he was doing. I think he was working the service club there too. Anyway, we were only there for not even quite a year and they gave him a medical discharge because of his heart problem. But they said they thought he should wait as long as he could before he had surgery. They thought he should have surgery, but the longer he waited, the better his chances were of survival. And so he got a medical discharge. We came back to Corvallis and we lived in Corvallis. And he worked at gas stations and he worked at different places there. I can't remember where all he worked besides gas stations. Oh, and then he decided, I'm trying to think, he decided to go to Merritt Davis School. But that was after he had surgery, because the first time he had surgery, he had it in San Francisco, California. And your grandparents and I, they took me down there when he had surgery, and he was there for several weeks where they replaced 3 of his heart valves. He was in the surgery for about 12 and a half hours. And your grandparents came back home, and I stayed there for another week or so. And then I came home on a bus. Your Aunt Dana, who was Bill Lester's, your father's brother, stayed with you kids while I was gone. And I don't remember that she stayed the whole time or what, but she did come and stay with you. Anyway, and he came back, and I think that surgery lasted for about 5 years. And I'm trying to think where we were at when he had second surgery. Whether we were still in Corvallis or whether we were in Salem. And I can't remember, but I do know he went to school at Merritt Davis to do bookkeeping work. And he worked at that in our home in Salem on Weeks Drive. And that's why we moved to Salem, so he could go to school. But I just can't remember where we were, whether he had the second surgery. Second surgery happened in Portland. He had it in Portland, where they had to replace one of the valves because it wasn't working. And I think we were in Salem at the time, because I think I remember Bob and Betty were stationed in Spokane, and they came up for a while, and they came up to see him, and then they came with us, brought me home for a day or so. Because I remember you had something to do, that you needed to get to school really early. I had no way of getting you there. That you had to be to school like at 5 o'clock in the morning or something. Maybe not quite that early. And I remember calling the school and trying to find out if there was any way that somebody that lived around there could pick you up. Because I had a little stay in the hospital for a couple days when your dad was in the hospital last time.
What do you mean you had to stay in the hospital?
Well, I had a lump and I had to have it removed. When your dad was in the hospital the second time when he had surgery.
Oh.
So I was in the hospital in Salem when he was in the hospital in Portland. But I only was in there like 2 days. But I'd just gotten out, and I remember that, and you had this thing going on. Maybe it was like outdoor school or something, and somebody came and picked you up. And then I remember Faith went and got you for me at school.
What's
remember
her last
Faith?
name?
Faith?
I remember her.
Stevens at that time.
Anyway.
Anyway, I don't know how did we get on this? Oh, talking about when it was. So we must have been in Salem that time. And I don't remember what year that was for sure.
What grade was I in?
I would say you would have been at least in the 5th grade. 4th or 5th.
He had 3 surgeries, didn't he?
Not on his heart, just 2.
I thought he had 3.
Mm. Let's see, I'm just trying to think, I don't know. Anyway, like I said, he did bookwork and did work for Tax Corporation of America doing taxes and at home, and he worked at home mostly. And I went to beauty college because he wanted me to do something, be able to do something to support us if something happened to him. And that was in I must have went to beauty school in 1973.
It wasn't your idea to go. He was Dad's.
Well, he kind of pushed it because he thought I should be able to know how to do something to
Earn a living.
right. Anyway, I did go and I graduated I graduated in September of 73, I believe. Your father died in January of 74, is that not correct? I always have to think and look it up sometimes.
I was 14. I was in junior high. I graduated in 77. Probably about right. I don't remember for sure. Yeah.
Where was I at?
Dad died
I got through with
January
beauty
3rd.
school in September
Of
of 73.
Dad
And-
died January.
And he died in January of 74. And Patty must have been 12, you must have been 13, and Ralph must have been 16. At the time. All teenagers.
Almost all teenagers.
Almost all teenagers. And anyway, I don't know. I worked and you guys went to school and we lived in that same house for about a year and I decided to sell it.
Why did you want to sell it?
Because it needed a lot of repair work done on it. And I didn't want to cope with it. So it was easy to decide to sell it. And I couldn't keep up the yard work and work. So we sold it and moved into an apartment.
How did your children handle Dad dying? As you remember.
Well, as I remember, they seemed to handle it pretty well on the outside. I'm not sure how they did on the inside. I mean, they didn't seem, I don't know. I remember trying to talk with you about it, but I don't remember any reactions that any of you had, really. I think, I don't know, for sure. I think Ralph, from what I remember, and I've heard since, has the hardest time because he felt he didn't, maybe because he was the oldest, they didn't get to say goodbye, and I don't know. That's just some of the things I've picked up on in later years. And I really don't know. Do you remember how you felt about it? I probably wasn't a very good, I mean, it was hard, and yet your father had been sick so much of the time in our married life, and had been ill so much. This may not be too nice a thing to say, but I felt that he was at rest and he was at peace and he did not have to suffer anymore. And I mean, in a way, it was kind of a relief that that he didn't have to deal with this illness anymore. And that's sort of the way I felt about it. Not that I didn't miss him and I didn't love him and everything like that. It was just that I felt he'd suffered enough in this world, and that he shouldn't have to suffer anymore. And I don't know, maybe I conveyed that to you guys, I don't know. I really don't. Patty seems to have some problems dealing with it now. From what some things she said. And like I said, I don't know, how did you feel about it? I don't know.
What about after? Years after, dealing with rebellious teenagers
I don't know, I guess
on your own.
in most parts, I think that you guys didn't cause me or yourself a lot of pain, or else you kept it away, grief or rebellion or something, or else you kept it hidden from me. One or the other, I don't know. I mean, I remember a few incidents when Ralph got speeding tickets. A couple. I had to go to court. Did I have to go to court with you one time when you got one too?
I don't remember. Possibly.
I remember Ralph got...
I got a couple of tickets, but I don't remember.
I remember Ralph getting 2 in the same day on Dearborn Avenue. That's probably why I remember that. Because it was both in the same day for speeding. And, I don't know. I remember you guys all wanting your own cars and all getting your own cars. But I don't think you caused me an excess amount of grief. I think either you raised yourself pretty well, because I'm not sure I was too good of a parent.
Why?
Well, I think I was very immature. I think I was always very mature. I grew up in the sticks where these, things that were going on when you guys were growing up, they were just things I really don't think I dealt with, or something. I don't know how to explain it.
Things like cars and...
Well, just kids getting into trouble or things like that. And I don't remember you really getting into that. Into trouble that much. Maybe little things, but not any really big things.
No.
I mean, little things probably like all kids get into. And I don't know exactly how I handle it. I probably handle it by yelling at you. And things like that. What do you remember about it?
This is your interview, not my interview.
I want to know what you remember. Like I said, I don't...
I'm having enough time thinking of the questions
I think my kids raised themselves pretty good, and they turned out very well. For the most, they turned out very well adjusted. They may have problems, but don't we all? I think that on the most that I'm very proud of all my children. because they did a good job of finishing raising themselves. I don't know.
What about Al?
What about Al?
He's part of your life.
Well, yeah, he's part of my life now.
No. This is not just about Minnie, Hayford, Lester. This is about Minnie, Hayford, Lester, Bryd.
I see. Well, let's see. I met him about 6 months after your father died.
Where?
He was selling insurance at the time. And he came to my beauty shop to sell insurance. And that's how I met him. And my children, most of them, you were gone at the time. You were in South Dakota with
North Dakota.
North Dakota, right?
With RC.
Yes. And I don't think that well, I don't know. I think anyway Patty didn't like it too much because she thought I was, and maybe all of you did, I don't know, being unfaithful to your father, but I'm not sure. Because I started dating somebody else. I'm not sure how you felt about it. I think Patty probably verbalized it. I'm not sure. I can't remember too much. But,
What attracted you to him?
I don't know. I think it was, one thing was that he was maybe different than your father was. I don't know whether that, that's nothing negative or positive. It's just that he was different. Just different, I think. And he was kind and gentle and loving, and I don't know, I probably that was probably it.
So you met him in 74.
Right.
And you were married in...
We were married in... No, that's not right. Is it?
You said 6 months.
We were married in 87. But we both had teenagers at the time, and our teenagers didn't get along, and we went together for a while, and then we'd break up, and then we'd get together and go together for a while again, and then we'd break up. Probably until we got our children grown about. That's the way it went.
Is that why?
Well, I don't know. I think it. Well, I think that had a lot to do with it. Because I remember Al saying to me one time that that it just wouldn't work. I mean, I think about that with Ralph and Trina. I shouldn't be talking about this on this.
I can take it up.
Everything, and they were all different, and it probably wouldn't have. At that time.
Trying to put them all into one house, you mean?
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Because they were just all, anyway, like that's about the way it went until.
Do you have any, okay. You have any interesting stories about older relatives that you remember?
I remember my father telling about things they did on Halloween when he was a kid. Like they'd go and pile things on other people's doorsteps, and things like that at Halloween.
Halloween pranks.
Yeah. And about how he rode the rail like a hobo when he was younger.
Grandpa Hayford.
Grandpa Hayford.
Younger? How younger?
Well, I don't know. I think him and Mom were married at the time, and he rode someplace to get a job to get money from some of the things I've read now. To work someplace else, and the only way he could get there was to hop a freight train and get there on a freight train.
Was this during the Depression?
Probably. I'm not sure, but I think it was. Because I really was too young to... In fact, maybe I wasn't. I was like, when was the Depression?
The 30s, just before World War II.
So see, I was born in 36.
Yeah, so you were born during the Depression.
Or maybe towards the end of it or something, whenever it ended.
Well, really, World War II ended it.
But, I'm trying to think, I don't know. I remember my mother telling us how she was born in Tennessee, and they got flooded out in Tennessee, and so her and her family moved to South Dakota, where one of her older sisters were. They traveled by I want to say horse and buggy. Do I dare? I don't
It's
know.
feasible.
At that time, it seems like that they, or maybe no. I don't think so. You can cut this out.
Don't worry about
I
it.
think they did it by train. Now that I think about it, I remember her telling me they traveled by train to South Dakota, wherever the closest place that it went, and then they may have bought a wagon or something. I remember asking my mother about these things, trying to get her to talk the last couple times I was to visit her, I should have written all this down. Or taped it. But I didn't. I don't know, I can't really remember. Nothing else clicks right now.
My name is Christina Lavelle Lewis Price.
When were you born?
April 29th, 1937. Clement Falls, Oregon, Hillside Hospital. My dad was Elmer Leslie Lewis, still is. My mother was Violet Ruth Urbach Lewis.
Do you remember how much you weighed or anything like that? Any details of your birth?
7 pounds something, I think, but I don't really remember or paying attention.
What's your earliest childhood memory?
I was about 4, I think. Well, vaguely remember, I don't know how old I was. I remember being in a car. We went to Wairika and they put me to sleep, did something to my ears. I remember them putting the chloroform over my face and how horrible it smelled. Dad said I couldn't possibly remember that, but I do. I remember going back and forth in the seat, from front seat to back seat to different relatives. I don't know who was in the car, but evidently some people in both the front and the back. Then when I was 4, I have a few memories.